Hi everyone, Erica here in my yoga space with all of the stuff and the dogs in the background napping. so it is summertime, and when we talk about summer and yoga and Ayurveda, there are some ways that we can think about summer and help ourselves along. For those of us where summer is depleting or fairly intense, as it is for me, I am very in tune and interested in staying cool, calm, and collected during the summer season. And so, if you're familiar with Ayurveda, the sister science to yoga that talks about and helps us with practices for the mundane daily kind of things of healthy living, as well as longevity, it has defined summer as Pitta season. And Pitta is one of the doshas or the constitutions among the three that are outlined in Ayurveda, the other two being Vata and Kapha. But Pitta is a combination of the elements of fire and water. And one of the tenets and principles of Ayurveda is that as without, so within. So if we look outside, we can see what's happening in the summertime embodies Pitta energy of that fire and water element. So it's hot, it's humid, it's very bright and light, it's intense. There may be a feeling of liquidy in the sense of kind of spreading and oily and that liquidy kind of sense in an oily kind of way. And it can be very sharp and intense. And so these qualities are neither good nor bad when in balance. So when we're balanced in this Pitta energy in the Pitta season, it's bright, it's sunny, we're active, we're having a great time. There's this balance of light and dark. There's an intensity, but it's in a joyous way. It's manageable. We're motivated. The plants outside in nature are growing. They're enjoying the more sunlight. There's an equal balance of rain and sunshine, drying out, and nourishment. And so we can see that in our bodies as well. When the Pitta energies of water and fire are in balance in the body, we feel a healthy glow to the skin. We have an ability to focus without burning up or burning out, which is on the other end, the out of balance way. Our digestion is healthy. We're able to take in all of those fresh foods of the season, which require a little more digestive fire to assimilate. We're motivated. We're joyful in doing all of the things that we want to do outside and with family and friends. There's this lightness. There's this joy in the fire and the water elements in Pitta season and in ourselves when we feel like we're balanced. When we go out of balance, or when we see in nature, again, as without, so within, when we see in nature that Pitta energy goes out of balance, we see desertification where there shouldn't be deserts, right? We see floods and deluge of water, too much, right? And so there's this extreme weather, for example. In ourselves, when we get out of balance, those extremes come in the form in the body of feeling of inflammation. We might get more rash or joint issues, eczema, psoriasis, hives, etc. Any of those kind of burny, more burn type bodily issues, digestion, acid reflux, ulcers, etc. might flare up. Even with the eyes, Pitta is associated with the eyes, and so we may feel eye strain or burning or dry eyes. Mentally, we might feel like we are more agitated. We get frustrated a little more easily. Our temper is a little bit more triggered, more easily triggered. And emotionally, we may feel those fiery emotions of frustration, anger, etc. This feeling out of balance in ourselves, again, that feeling of burning up or burning out, or feeling overwhelmed or flooded, right, with too much stuff, just too much. Everything's too much. And so in Ayurveda, again, that idea of as without, so within, what can we look to nature, all right, to see how nature balances herself. and how can we take those practices into our own bodies. And another principle I'll offer is that in Ayurveda is that like increases like. And so if we, for example, are already hot and already warm and already feeling overscheduled, overstretched, burned up and burned out, and then we add spicy foods, we add more activity, we add more heat, then you can see how that might cause even more issues, right? And so we want to, if like increases like, all right, we want to introduce, according to Ayurveda, the opposite qualities, some of the opposite activities and mental attitudes in order to bring ourselves back to who we are, this cool, calm, collected, joyful person. Okay. And so what are some things, simple things we can use from yoga and Ayurveda? This is all very common sense. There's no heroics that are needed. All right. We don't need to purchase a new program or buy a new diet or plan or whatever. These are very simple and very doable. And so one is simply changing our attitudes, right? And so if adding more intensity, more heat, more focus causes us to go out of balance in the summertime with that Pitta energy, what can we do on the other end of the spectrum? Maybe offering some more space. If you think of a burning ember, right? And you just increase that intensity and that heat. Whereas if you kind of spread that ember or give it some space and some oxygen, all right, there's a more sustainable warmth or heat to that ember, to that fire. So we're not looking to douse, our joy or the joy in the season or loving summer, etc. We're just looking to not let it get too intense. And so giving ourselves some space in our mental processes, right? So giving ourselves some space in our schedule so that we can mentally kind of recalibrate and say, okay, I'm going to move on to the next activity now, rather than scheduling ourselves one thing right after another, whether it be kids, jobs, dogs, all of our responsibilities with family and work, etc. So how can we give ourselves even a minute of transition time for our minds and our bodies before moving to the next activity? Just that little bit will start to create a little bit of space and de-intensify that mental heat or overwhelm in the mind. So just this attitude shift of how can I create a little more space in my schedule, in my life. All right. Even if it's a minute, we all have a minute that we can offer a little bit more space to. So I ask us to start with that mental shift. How can I offer myself a little more space? And just asking that question, you've probably come up with 10 or 15 things that you could allow yourself in the way of a little bit more space. All right. Secondly, if we look at the body and we look at yoga, which is my jam, right? If we look at our yoga practice or introducing a yoga practice, how can we offer a little more space, a little more flow into our practice? So rather than thinking this time of year of only power yoga or only intense, heated, really physical practices, which just drum up more heat. And for those of us that are already warm in this season or dealing with life change, for example, of perimenopause or postmenopause, we don't need any more heat. We just don't need it. We've already got enough. And so how can we work with yoga practices? There's so many wonderful styles, right? How can we work with yoga practices that maybe are titled flow yoga or restorative yoga or yin yoga? There are some styles of yin that might be beneficial to us. But we think of what are some cooling practices in yoga for our yoga practice, some soothing practices. Not that we have to say, no, I'm never going to do my favorite style of yoga that's vinyasa or a warming practice or very active. And yet, how can I shift my focus just for this season to either add on a more restorative or flow style practice that offers my body some space and some ability to kind of diffuse that heat and that warmth mentally and physically, How can I incorporate that style of practice as well? And if I'm not looking for a full physical yoga practice, there are many aspects of yoga, right? So how can I incorporate relaxation? Again, that offering of space, cooling, calming, non-competitive, all right? The Pitta energy can be very competitive. And so how can we back off of that competition with our bodies in general, but especially during the summer season, to offer ourselves a little more space, a little more grace, a little more nourishment. And so that could be simply adding on to a physical yoga practice, a longer relaxation at the end. So rather than taking 2 minutes, and hopping up and moving on, again, think that transition time. How can I add 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Goodness, if you could add 15 minutes to the end of a practice, or just do a relaxation practice as your full practice, that would be my prescription for you for summertime, is to offer yourself and your body and your mind that gift of relaxing, and just a relaxation technique that works for you. Breathing techniques in the summertime, we let go of Ujjayi breath, kind of that, what we know as that Darth Vader breath, which is very heating. Again, we don't need to pack on any more heat usually if we're in an intense summer climate. And so letting go of that Ujjayi breath, you can always take it back up, at certain times, or in the winter time for sure. But how can we work with a smooth, quiet, soft breath? How can we work with maybe Brahmari breath, which is a bee buzzing, kind of a buzzing breath? How can we emphasize a little bit more relaxation and longer exhales to release that heat, release that tension, release that grip? And so those are some ways that we can incorporate those, bringing in the opposite qualities, cooling breath techniques, cooling relaxation, more flow, more restorative aspect, less competitive attitude about our yoga practice. And then, of course, nutrition-wise, always great to eat in season. Nature knows what she's doing. When the cucumbers are ripe, cucumbers are naturally cooling to the body. All right. Nature is very intelligent, and we just want to remember and honor that. So eating the fruits and vegetables of the season, eating according to your circadian rhythms, giving your body transition time to digest rather than continuing to pack on, heavy foods, really hot or spicy foods. We can let those go to fall into winter time and to spring. For summertime, really enjoying, what's offered in the season according to your constitution and what works for your digestion. And so just some tips, just some ways that, again, first starting with our mindset that in the principles of Ayurveda, we look without, all right, to see what's going on within. How does nature find balance? All right. How can we find balance in this Pitta season, this summer season that can be really, at least in southwestern Pennsylvania, very hot, very humid. And rather than packing on more heat and humidity, and intensity into our bodies during this season, how can we offer some space? How can we offer some cooling? How can we offer some more balance in our bodies and within nature as well, through our mindset, through our yoga practice, and also through our nutrition? So I hope that you got some inspiration and some tips. I know now I'm going to go drink a little more water and have a lunch that is fresh and cooling, and maybe go take a nap with these guys. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Be well.